Greetings, my comrades. I am Admiral Andre, and welcome back to the 6th episode of our Kerbal Space Program career with the Breaking Ground DLC, as well as the previous one, of course. So let's have a look what's on the menu today. First, of course, we just have to take care of our correspondence. This must not look like my real-world inbox where I have hundreds of unread messages, but we shall not talk about that. So Pioneer 1, that was the first stage, was recovered for another 1,700 or 1.7 million bucks. Delete that. The upper stage, I think that's the upper stage, was destroyed. Yes, with a Terrier. That's fine. 900 bucks. 900,000, but anyway. And we explored the moon, at least the first level of exploration. Talk about close encounters. Any closer and there'd be paperwork. Then, of course, world's first milestones. Again, the government is pleased with our achievements, so they have given us these rewards. We have initiated the first flyby of the moon. We have escaped the gravitational influence of Kerbal. We have gathered the first scientific data from the moon, and we have also escaped the gravitational influence of the moon in favor of returning back to a lower Kerbal orbit, thanks to the moon. So I'll delete that as well. Now, I think, as always, it's a good idea to just have a look at our milestones again, so let us go do that. Right, welcome, comrades. This is the Kerbal Space Program Master Plan. This is probably the only time we're using Comic Sans as a font is allowed, because you can imagine the Kerbals would kind of do that. Anyway, so I've added some more things here. We will certainly not get to all of these things in this episode. This is just, again, to give us a bit of breathing room for the future. So let's just see, I want to mark off a few more things that we can mark off. So use the nice thick green line. Since we have all of the first lunar flyby achievements, we can tick off lunar probe, and then that completes this whole block. The next one would be the lunar impactor, but of course we still have to do the lunar flyby for Minmus, which will be much more difficult without upgrading the tracking station. Then I just added this one, the Lunar Orbiter badges. It's nice to get badges. You know, I know there's a mod also, what is it called? The Final Frontier or something like that, that gives badges for Kerbals. Should I add something like that? Well, we've already started, so maybe not. I'll look into it, comrades. It's another extra thing, but anyway. So definitely we want to still do a Pegasus equivalent, so we'll leave that one. The next goal will be the joint manned launch for or Kerbal launch for the Gladius capsule. But then basically we've exhausted the abilities of that first level capsule. In Buzz Aldrin Space Program Manager, you can also not do much more or anything more really with the Mercury capsule. The most you can do is a level 1 mission, which we've done, 6 to 36 hours, and the joint launch, and that's it. Because it's not meant for anything more lengthy, really, especially for the poor astronauts trapped in such a small capsule. Anyway, then of course we can still later on work on space planes and all of that, so I'll leave this branch right here. But then the next level eventually, this is why I said we won't get to this now, is the 2 crew spacecraft, whatever we will call that. And that will of course give us our first spacewalk, our first close rendezvous, and there's another, obviously the docking with the ATV, and we can do a crew exchange as well if we feel like it. There's several levels of missions you can do. I just copied the pictures of the main ones out of Buzz Aldrin Space Program Manager here on the right. Now this is of course beyond the basic missions of reaching orbit and doing all of that. So there they have 2 EVAs during a rendezvous. Then they also have a level 2 duration for a docking. So that would be 36 hours to 7 days. Then they have a docking plus an EVA, 2 rendezvous with EVAs for another level 2 mission, a spacewalk for level 2, but you can also do that for level 1. See, there's lots of different combinations. We can chop and change just like we want. Anyway, but the mission, or the focus here is again that the 2 crew capsule is really only for a level 3 duration, which I pasted here now. It's 7 to 13 days, no more really than that. That's pushing the poor astronauts to the limit again. It's just like the front of a car, you know, it's like sitting in a car seat for 2 weeks basically. That's not good. We can do what the Soviets did and the Russians still today and add a habitation module for the orbital missions, which we dump, of course. That will extend it greatly, so then I won't bother about these kind of limitations anymore. So yes, that's basically all I wanted to show here. We'll see what we can do. We might even do a Zond 5 flyby, because this is not quite the orbital missions yet. So maybe that's what we'll do next. So see you back in the VAB, comrades. Right, comrades, we are back again, and say it with me. Oh, good grief. I've gone and added another mod, actually 2 of them. It's a virus, comrades, I'm telling you, it cannot be helped. But again, strictly, I'm not doing part packs. So that was now actually a brainstorm when I mentioned about the Final Frontier mod, so I went and installed the thing. And so there's the Final Frontier Hall of Fame. Of course, we only have 5 Kerbals at the moment. Now, we of course already have done missions, but this won't reflect that. So we'll just have to keep in mind we only introduced this system in the 63rd day of our space program. But you know, real space programs also evolve. They don't all start out nice with halls of fame and ribbons and medals and stuff. They just start out in the desert sometimes, and just like ours. So we'll just keep track of things from now on with this. Also, now what we can see, I added another mod. I'll put the description of these, or the names of these mods, in the description of the video. But that one actually allows you to award ribbons to various Kerbals. So this is, let me just see if I can find it, like here. So this is almost like giving medals. It doesn't really match with anything specific, like for example getting an EVA around Joule or something like that. This is purely for random things like injury badge. This Kerbal sustained some injuries, you know, if they fall or something like that. Random stuff. I'll have to look at all of this because I don't even know what we have here. Maybe this is going too complex now. Anyway, we'll just have a look at that. Something to just see if it's worthwhile. Now, I think we have $263 million in our account. So, how much is it for the tracking station? We can do that. This is, of course, our moon flyby that's given us this money. So, let's do this. It's worthwhile. So much money. Anyway, there we go. A major upgrade at the Space Center. Now, also for our role-playing purposes, I still like to think of this particular location for the moment just housing our lab, the tracking station, and the admin. The rest of our things like the spaceplane hangar, the VAB, and the astronauts and all that, they're all based in the desert for now. So I'll still be using that. Now let's just have a look if there's any particularly juicy contracts here. There's space data around the moon. We can do this because we want to do something in this nature anyway. Atmospheric surveys. I know there's the one I forgot about the heat shield. But I don't think it's because we went to the moon, we didn't come back anyway. So this is still something to keep in mind because I have to test it. I can't just do it passively. So I have to run the test there. Let's just see a VIP orbit. Something like this might be worthwhile at some point, but this is only when we have the 2 crew capsules. And I know, of course, we have the P capsule, but I think I'll wait on that. I don't want to use that unless we have the fairings and I can start making it look a bit nicer. Heat shield, stack separator, there's a high G thing. They all want to pass out. This should be relatively easy. The only problem is the pilot is also going to pass out. Maybe we should do this. They want to pass out. Can you believe it? Maybe we'll just wait on that, I think. So let's see just who's available. Always want to just have a look. Keep track of what's happening. That's what a good administrator will do. So let's go back into the VAB, and now we should be able to do more intricate space missions. I also just want to add a description to the spire here. Is there any way of doing that? No. I think I'll just have to overwrite. Actually, before we do this, I want to open up the Gladius, any one of them, and I just want to see what is the actual weight capacity of this rocket. So, of course, we take just this part here and see this is 1.1 tons. So, delete that, or actually leave it for now. I'll just override that Spire 1B. It's exactly the same. So, I'll just say delete. It doesn't still allow me to add a description. I'll just have to delete that. So that is 1.1 ton to low Kerbal orbit. Saved. Now we know something for the future. When we have lots and lots of rockets, we can just keep track of things here. Right, throw this away, we will first of all do another moon mission. Now, we do have an outstanding contract here to return to Kerbal from a flyby of the moon. So this is actually perfect for the Zond 5 equivalent. So let's do the planning for that. Right, so we'll do the same thing that we did before. We'll just use the 3-stage variant of that Spire 1B. Now, of course, it has to be accompanied by the Science Junior. Just want to have a look at this. Is there a way we can make this look interesting again, instead of just the standard kind of construction? Now, the problem is still, we don't have the small struts yet. That's interesting. Now I can do that and then turn it around, but then I can't attach anything to that. Now actually undo. And move this a little. Just to start making things look a bit more interesting. Now I can attach it like this, so maybe I'll do that. This is a bit of a problem. More than a bit of a problem, but anyway. I have to judge this. And then we'll try and move it into place. Just roughly. Again, it's not going to matter too much if it's not absolutely perfect. Your early mission should be a little imperfect. Is that? That looks good. I think that actually works well. Right, so there's our probe, comrades. Very simple thing. It's not going to be anything too intricate here. We do, of course, oh, so that's the one they want us to test, not the smaller one. Oh well, tough luck. It'll have to wait. Luckily, we can have 7 contracts now. Now, in this case, we're going to have to be very careful because the batteries will certainly run out ahead of time unless we add enough of them. And I put the thing back on hibernate. So let's strap them on there. Just want to rotate this. Something of that nature. There, at least again some other details. Detailing is always nice. So for the heat shield, of course, we'll just use the standard one. And now we have, of course, most important feature is to see what the aerodynamics will be. That's fine as long as the center of mass is towards the bottom. And a parachute, of course. That's the other most important thing. Now this weighs just over half a ton, so we could actually place this in orbit if that was what we wanted to do. But of course we still need the transfer stage. Can this snap there? It kind of looks like it can. For some reason it does have a snapping point. Oh, it's obviously because the Science Junior didn't use the upper snapping point, so this is actually perfect. Now it's a bit tough to make this look very nice because you see you get this kind of uneven line on the bottom there. I think I'll just do what I did before. Just like that, so at least it's not completely clipped into the thing. So there is our equivalent of Zond 5. Now this will of course have our bioscience experiments, and it will also allow us to return science from the moon, which is one of our goals. This will not be an orbiter yet. Now let me just have a look at the antennas. For this again, I'm not going to use relays unless we really need the relays for actual relay purposes. I think we'll keep this kind of downward facing antenna configuration in homage to the Sputnik, because we're still using the basic Stay Sputnik design. Like that, and of course it will hopefully protect it from the re-entry as well. Just going to roll it a little. I have to say these recordings are actually becoming a bit of a refuge for me. You know, just something very relaxing to do and look forward to, so I'm enjoying them a lot. Anyway, now this is of course the probe, so now it, oh dear, yes, we also need of course a reaction wheel. Will we find another snapping point? Probably not, so I'll have to use the one that we employed for the parachute. Okay, if they make that sound, then you know it's working. Parachute. And move it up. Now of course I could build all of this stuff off camera, but what's the point in that? It's more interesting to share it with you, I think. Of course you can also skip it if you like. Now in this case we'll just open up our don't save that, the Pioneer 1, merge this and alt click on the decoupler right there, and there's our rocket. Easy peasy, just like that. Now let's just make sure all our staging is done correctly. So we'll still save the lower stage. I might try saving the upper stage as well, so this will become a new rocket then, or a slight variant of the Spire. We can see, because in this case now the middle stage is not making orbit, so it's not going to experience the reheating, the full reheating effects or return effects during orbital re-entry. And of course the upper stage is not coming back at all, so I think it's sensible then. I'll just try doing it like this. Oops, not too. And in this case it's not going to jeopardize our reaching orbit because we anyway have another stage. So I first want to edit this. Let's get smart about this and say about there. Make sure snapping is on, and that should be the middle right there. Okay, now I'll just check everything again. So we now have this new parachute which is supposed to separate right there, and then we fire the upper one, then we separate that one, and then of course finally the parachute. So now I will again go back to sub-assemblies. Now in this case I think it's difficult to judge the mass at this time, because we don't fully know what the maximum capability of this current rocket is. So let's maybe just say we know it's about 700 kilograms. I can check that, of course. 770, what do you know? And we don't need the struts anymore. So Alt, put it there, and this will be the spire. Should we call this now a new spire? I think so. 2A, because this is a lunar insertion rocket. Now this, we just know the 770 so far, so I'm going to say 8 kg to translunar injection. Of course this is a flyby, it does not have its own fuel for orbital insertion yet, so this is the very basic. What was the real world equivalent of this for the US? The Juno, Jupiter C, Juno, one of those, the Jupiter C I think was the very first one, so it must be the Juno. Or Thor Able was a little later, I think. Anyway, now comes the most important part of any mission, and that is giving the name. And thank you for your suggestions, comrades. I will certainly use them, because we will have many missions. I can see this career series going into many dozens of episodes. So yes, hopefully the mods won't kill it, but as long as we keep it to just informational mods, then it should be perfectly fine. Now the first one, I'll still use my list that I have here for now. Now this is not going to be a Pioneer, because the Pioneer is literally what the name says. It's the Pioneer, it's the first one to go somewhere. So in this case it's going to be the Prodigy, just because. Prodigy 1, because it has living specimens or something, we can justify it. Save that and launch from the desert. This should be a fun one, hopefully. So yes, the desert is still my favorite. I don't know, maybe we'll use it the whole time, but probably not. At some point we will switch to the main space port. Right, so this should also be quite aerodynamic at the top there. So can't of course lock it. And good luck, comrade. And there's the rocket. So we can pretend this is a reused stage from the previous one. Right, so this rocket of course will also still have its hard limit, because the thrust to weight can only take so much. And I did let it slip a little to the west there. That's not so good. There were some suggestions as well on the previous video to add solid boosters and other small engines and so on. We'll get to that. This is still just the very basic initial kind of rocket. We want to really not jump ahead too much. We want to push things to their max, and then when we're forced to, then we switch over. I think this is going well. So we're passing, almost passing the speed of sound now. I think we're going a little high, so I'll throttle down, but not so that we lose speed. At some point I'll start speeding up these launches, or just skipping them completely, because eventually once you've seen them you get a bit tired of them. But anyway, right, I never get tired of them. Okay, we are about to stage. I'll just drop the speed a little. Done. Now I'm not going to move it because of the flipping again, but of course I can't lock it anyway. I think I have to use fine controls. Furious keys being tapped, or keys being tapped furiously. I often mix things around like that. Right, 35. Switch to Orbital Telemetry, and of course now we'll get lots of nice information because of the millions that we spent on the tracking station upgrade. One minute, it's still climbing, that's perfectly fine. And ditch the thing and ignite the next one, so hopefully we'll get that one back. That's fine, 73. Don't need more than that. Extend the antennas. It's in the upper atmosphere, so it's safe to do so. And now we can see exactly how long we need to wait. And for the first time we can do an actual maneuver, and we also get the information from the Trajectories mod now. It tells us exactly where we're going to splash down, while also accounting for aerodynamic forces, which the marker for Kerbal Engineer does not account for, I think. 73, 71, perfectly fine. And for a moment there it said we didn't have enough fuel, but that's odd. Anyway, hopefully this will work. Makes me doubt a little bit. I think this will be a failure. It's time to add the solid boosters now, I think. But maybe we can still get data from high over Kerbal. We need at least 800 and something to get to the moon. Nope, not gonna make it, comrades. Not going to make it, just barely, so we've pushed the limits of this rocket now. At least we made it into a nice orbit. And we have 699 left. Now, can we still do it? The whole point is to return also, but even if we can't, then that's fine. Many of those early missions were failures. Oh, so much nicer. You see, it's way too much. So how much can I do? No, you see, we're missing it completely. Anyway, it's fine. We'll just do a... I think we can even return this. We'll do a high mission over Kerbal and then return it. This is almost like a test for the flyby of the moon. We can spin it like that. Now, we've obviously already done the bioscience experiments in low Kerbal orbit, so we just push it up to several hundred kilometers. I think it's 250 or something. That's the boundary between low and high over Kerbal, or 200. And also I need to remember to put this thing on hibernate. For the next one also. Right, 601 in a few minutes. Right, close enough. Do the experiment. And we have done this already. That's right, that was our second one. Oh well, bit more. And it's a test, you know. It's just another attempt at getting better. So in this case, comrades, I'm going to speed all of this up so I can see you back in the VAB for our adjustments. Splashdown, we're back home, comrades, and I still have to actively stop myself from trying to jump back out of time warp. But of course the mod Safechute does that for me. But it's going to take some getting used to. Anyway, we're back home. I was just also looking while we were waiting at the X-Science just to see again the list of things. We can do searches here and it's really convenient. I have to start using this a bit more. Anyway, let's recover. And also see if we did get our stages back. And so yes, we did get a bit of science out of that. We can actually research something, I think. Right, so the first stage was recovered, 1700, delete that, 1000 for the second stage, and of course the upper stage, which was never meant to come back, was destroyed. So we got some money back there. I like doing that. Let's just have a look here. No, it's 90. Alright, we've already maxed out this level. So, let's just have a look. It's night here. Is it night in the desert? No, so we can continue. I don't want to really launch at night unless I have to. So let's see what we need to do now. I was also thinking actually, but it's not going to help doing that now because I don't have the fairings and all of that for this. Where's the fairings now? Good grief. Yeah, we don't have anything. No, that's right, we don't. To use perhaps a pod like the onion pod, and then I have done this before on my own. To use an onion pod and then put the Science Junior inside that because there's no pilots, and then of course return it just like a Soyuz kind of capsule, more like the real Zond 5 looked, but of course this is not practical right now. So I'll keep all of this. We just need to make this auto hibernate and then configure this thing a little. Now in this case I just want to add basically some boosters, so we'll take the fins off first and just use the radial decouplers. I think 2 will be just fine, hopefully. We'll test it. Should we do 4? Maybe. No, but yes, fine, let's do 4. This will be just a basic one. The hammer, and what I'm going to do here now, I'm gonna play with this. I don't want it to just look like this short kind of booster, so I like to add the structural fuselage on top of this. Now I know this is unnecessary weight to it, but it just gives this kind of intermediate stage before you get the big thumpers. So this hardly matters. It's another 100 kilos that each booster has to lift, but that doesn't really matter. So let's add some nose cones there. Just want to see what's the options. Shall we just stay with all white? Alright. Later on I'll use the orange, and maybe we should even do that now. Just a nice orange stripe. Maybe. Alright. Then move this down so it's more or less even with the booster itself. And just move it up a little. Rocket surgery, you know. Right. I also like to move them closer a little bit. Hopefully this won't backfire, but just so that you still see those 3 little attachment points there, but nothing more than that. Now hopefully it's not going to swing back and hit the booster, but if it does, that'll be completely my fault. But anyway, so in this case we'll attach the fins at a 45-degree angle. And again right to the bottom, just to keep the look of the spire. Maybe even more than that. No, nice and flush at the bottom is fine. Okay, now let's think about this whole thing. So there's our new booster, but the first stage has to have all the engines, of course. Now we get 3.52, which is too much, so bring the thrust limiter down. 2, that's perfect, so also they won't burn out so fast. Then we ditch them and etc, etc. Is it worthwhile saving these? 400, and that's full of fuel, plus 380, so let's say the end is going to be 100 plus 380, more or less, plus 240. It's less than 1,000 each, but I suppose we can do that. That is probably the responsible thing to do. And now of course snapping is a problem, so I'll have to use these parachutes. More expensive, but we'll get them back as well. So let's move this in. Maybe I'll even move it into the middle and to the top, but not clipping out, so we can pretend these nose cones have built-in parachutes. Right, same story though, I have to modify them. Like that, and then make sure everything is looking good here, so there we go, just need to see that. So plus that, okay, I think it works more or less now. We'll get everything back except the final stage there. Of course the payload does come back. Now do we need struts? We can auto strut this thing. And the same here. And there. Just to be certain. Now that's Prodigy 2, and I'm just going to save that, and then we want a new sub-assembly. But I don't know what the capabilities of this rocket will be. I think this might even be our first lunar orbiter rocket as well. So I'll just take this whole thing. This is again enough to warrant a redesign. Now of course that 8 kilos to TMI is a lie. What did I say? 8 kilos. Somewhere there was a malfunction. That's 800 kilos. But anyway, ignore that, comrades. This will be the Spire 3A. We're jumping through these models now. Or should this be... No, this is not a 3. This is still a 2. Because it's actually it's still a 1 if we really think about this. No, it's not a 1 because it has the extra stage. But then can't we argue that this also has an extra stage now? Things get kind of confusing here, comrades. Of course it doesn't matter at all. I'm just thinking what would be the logical thing. Because the core and the middle stage is still exactly the same, but now we've rearranged the fins. I think this is worth to have its own number, just like the Titan 3A or C or whatever the case. And now I'm gonna add Titan. Oh, don't do too much at once, please. 3A, and then we'll say Nothing at the moment. We need to find out more. That'll do. Save again and desert site. Right, let's see if this works better. It certainly should. And now of course we have the hibernate as well. And we'll get most of it back, but again this is not the best because we're launching from the desert. So if you launch from the main space center, these boosters will fall close to the space center, so you'll get almost all the value back. But anyway, good luck, comrade. And there she goes, with gusto, certainly better than before. Now I have to turn quite aggressively because once we pick up speed I can't turn down the throttle on the solid fuel. So I'll do it on the liquid fuel, which saves more. And even more. Let's bring it down to 1/6 more or less. A nominal launch, if I can say nominal. Right, full throttle and ditch, and that's a beautiful separation, and now they all hit one another and destroy themselves. So it was useless anyway. Never mind. That's really where I need separatrons and angled nose cones and all of that, but it doesn't matter. It's so cheap. We'll get one of them back anyway. Right, so I think in the next iteration I'll take those parachutes out of the boosters, because I think they actually just make it even more expensive since we don't recover all of them. Now in this case I have to tilt a little here. I think this will get us much further at least. We can see already this stage is taking us at least to space now. Yes, I should have turned more at the start. Much better. Spire 3 is doing really well. And we have 55 seconds, so I think let's speed up a little and not pull it down so much. Separate, ignite the next stage. This will be our orbital insertion stage for sure, and then the next one is our trans-lunar injection stage. That's how it should be. That's much better. Two stages to orbit, and then one stage to fly by the moon, and then another stage for moon orbit, if that's eventually what we get to. Of course we will, not just right now. And stop, don't want it to go too far. Time warp. I thought about getting the persistent rotation mod as well, but then of course I can't use the time warp cheat, so I probably won't. Just for eventually when we do interplanetary missions and all that. This is so difficult to keep an eye on the time to apoapse and all that and control it. I think we'll dump this because I don't want this to stay in orbit. And I think actually if it stays above 20 kilometers in the periapse, then it effectively never comes home, because the physics simulation doesn't kick in above 20 kilometers if it's not an active player craft. So that should still return safely. And we have 1700 meters. We could easily do a lunar insertion. So of course we're not going to do that. And I will keep using lunar and mooner interchangeably in this campaign. So that's just how it's going to be. Anyway, add maneuver and planned flyby so that we actually come back. Hopefully without having to use more fuel. But of course we can if we need to. Now we are swinging around at an angle, of course, but we can fix that. Up. That's getting us close. It doesn't matter how we get to this, it's fine. We just needed to enter into the atmosphere. So let's play around with this. Whoops. Again, we do want a high orbit there, and 14 is perfectly fine. This will do, comrades. It'll take 21 days to get back. Also fine. More data on how living creatures behave in space. And lock. I'll extend the antennas once we finish the burn. I just want to use time warp to lock us in position again. Right, 3, 2, 1, go. And yes, luckily the craft is perfectly balanced, or close to perfectly balanced. Oops, or am I speaking too soon? Spoke too soon, I think. Anyway, we can still make a correction burn. Right. Fierce concentration here. And oof. About 1 meters per second off. Let's have a look what the result is of that. So we will fly by 126 and return 55. No. This will not do. You see the line doesn't return to Kerbal itself. What happens if I slow us down? That will definitely be a landing right there. Actually 10 is fine, so we will land, if all goes well, right there. Of course we can't see it very well, but that's near the Badlands, I think. And we will also have a 138 kilometer flyby of the moon. Now, of course, I should have, this is now another thing, what's the strength on this thing? If I decouple this, it will change the orbit. I'm going to F5 and just hope that this is one that I toned down. Let's see, let's find out. It's not pointing to prograde. No, it's not toned down. 60 now. Nope, F9. That's why you save. So we'll keep this attached during the entire flight. Ideally we'd like to detach it, but that's alright. Now it's time for the antennas. And let's go, comrades. A magnificent sight of the moon. I can't wait to see what it will look like with the new textures. So we are at our periaps, so let's do the test. Observe the materials bay. High radiation environment, so that's something to keep in mind for crewed missions. Keep that, close the doors, check if our trajectory is still on course, and I will see you closer to home, comrades. Okay, time to prepare for re-entry. That was quite a scenic journey. So I just want us to point roughly to the retro, and now we can ditch this stage. This will be our highest speed re-entry as well, so it's kind of like a test of the heat shield from near lunar orbital re-entry speeds at least. Right, continue. Whoops, just remember to retract the antennas. And we lost the experiments. The thing was wobbling a little too much. I tried to stabilize it at the end. We lost the whole thing, so another failure, I'm afraid. Oh well. Yikes, too bad for whatever was in there. Well, back to the drawing board, I guess. So we can see exactly what happened. The Science Junior exploded due to overheating. Yes, it was just still swinging around. Couldn't, of course, lock to retrograde. I think that's our next objective. To get some probe cores that can actually lock its position. Right, but that's how we learn. So 64 science, unfortunately we didn't get that back. Should I? No. I can of course reload that. I wonder. No, we're not going to bother. We'll save that for when things go wrong near the launch pad, not when they're already so far into the mission, unless it's of course something we really care about. Now in this case we do need some more science to get that's what I want, the octo. That's really the next thing, plus of course the solar panels. So let me think, any other contracts during this time that we were away? Temperature surveys. This is really close to the moon, but specific sites, so we're not going to do this yet. Maybe I can take this contract for the future when we do orbital missions. Alright, I'll take this because it's a lot of money. Haul this into flight. No, I'm not gonna bother. Anyone else available for recruitment? There's Jamie Kerman. But we have the maximum capacity here now. And that's going to cost us $79 million to recruit one. I guess that's their whole lifetime of wages, plus health insurance, life insurance, and the cost of their training as well. Scientist. Well, we'll need more scientists, but can I afford that? I can't afford that right now. Hopefully he's not going to leave before we can recruit him. Well, now what's next on the agenda then? Let me think. The next step would be, of course, to do instead the joint crewed mission. So I think we'll do that instead. I just want to have a look at this. Jeb was, of course, our first in space. So is there a possibility of still awarding him that ribbon? It doesn't look like I can search that. I'll have a look, comrades. I'll get back to you in a moment. Well, I think at least we can award Jeb the Hero of Kerbal First Class. He deserves that. Awarded for heroism during dangerous assignments. So this is the first class because he was the first in space. I think he deserves that. We'll give that to him. And let's see what else. Test pilot is certainly true. I can really get lost in all of these things. There's so many different ribbons, but these are all the custom ones. This is not the first in space and all of that. Just says qualified scientist, chief operations, space wings. Well, he can get his space wings. Oh, this is now for a space plane. Now that would not be him. That would be Valentina. Right, I'll play around with this and then I'll get back to you, comrades. I just want to give some ribbons away, at least where it's warranted, and I think we'll do the joint launch in the next episode. Okay, I think that's all I'll do now. Really, I just want the sort of stock ones, but these are just, that's the reason I installed these extra ones, is just to kind of make up for the missions that we've already had. So I've just given Jeb the Hero of Kerbal First Class for obvious reasons. The test pilot ribbon, which I also gave to Valentina, but then I also gave her the space wings for the space plane, which she took with the tourists, plus the custom space plane ribbon. That's just again for space plane, the very first one. So that's it. That's all I'll do for that. Otherwise, I'm going to spend too much time digging around there, unless there's something really extraordinary. I could add something for Chad, but I mean, what is there? So he spent the first level of duration in space, but there's so many. I could do, I don't want to give ranks. Of course, I'm the Admiral, so I can't give that away. Something custom, but then how do we know what it means? Can I rename that? Yes, let's do that. Duration level 1, so we'll know that. Anyway, something, you know, Bill and Bob have obviously not been in space yet, so again it recognizes that they achieved something before we started introducing this system. Now there's a config there. No. Don't want to mess with this. I don't know what I'm doing, so let's just leave it there. Comrades, so this was an episode with failures, but at least one of those failures we still learned something in terms of science, and the other one as well, that we need to be able to lock to retrograde, otherwise we'll lose the craft again. That's part of the space journey, you know. It's not always going to be moonshine and roses and all of that. So let's just see. We did, of course, lose the debris. That debris was recovered. Interesting. Oh, this was the... What's going on here? The radial mount parachute, so this was one of the boosters, plus the aerodynamic nose cone and the fuselage. So the actual booster was destroyed when they hit one another. There's one that we got the whole thing back. That's another 1,100. So I think it does make sense to keep doing that. Anyway, see you next time, comrades. Hopefully we'll be able to achieve our moon flyby then.